In the time of the 50s and 60s, there wasn't any statute or any kind of regulation that helped to really define our values. The Lanterman Act, pushed through legislation by Frank Lanterman, signed into law by Ronald Reagan at the time that he was governor in 1969, was an act that established the values of how we saw the citizens who were being born with disabilities, how we saw how their lives could be and should be. And it basically states a very simple idea. People with disabilities should have the right to the supports and services that all other people have a right to lead a typical life. So Pat Camber was one of those early Tiger moms. She has a daughter who was born with a pretty significant disability, and she knew that her daughter could have a right to a life that's different than what she saw.
My daughter Sharon was born in 1953, and she was diagnosed with autism. I'd never heard of autism, so I went to the library and I discovered that according to the authority, Brunel Bettelheim, autism was caused by poor parenting, especially cold, rejecting mothers.
And so Pat, in her passionate spirit that she has, basically became probably our first, in the most positive way, probably our first political stalker of Frank Lanterman. She knew where he ate dinner, she knew what his political focus was, and she basically met him at every spot she possibly could meet him at.
I began to meet people who had connections to Sacramento, and so I went up there, and it was in meeting Frank Lanterman that I was able to think about a program that eventually might help Sharon to no longer need the state hospital. And with his help, that legislation was passed.
No two people are alike, and so there's a need to have a variety of services for folks with disabilities. And the Lanterman Act helps define how those supports and services are going to be implemented across a very large state. And so the Lanterman Act is very important for Tierra del Sol. We believe that all people have value and meaning, and we really believe that people can be empowered to find their value and their acceptance really through their contributions that they make to the larger society. So our workforce development strategies include community service. So our clients become their employees. We also believe that people can have a pathway to workforce through college. So their end goal can be better education, better literacy, and a better work track, a better career track, that they can make more money or do something that's much more focused on their interests. And our final very simple focus is there's going to be some people who are going to define their careers by being an artist. And so that's our focus. Very simple. Workforce development, career in the arts, pathway through college. It's a very simple approach, but for 700 people, it's very different for each one of them.
These are programs that are terribly important, and that means that these disabled people are entitled to help, to have a decent life, and they learn life skills and how to hold a job, and they go to school, and they even go to college and get degrees, and those things are so important for disabled people.
The state is no longer able to fully fund the Lanterman Act. It means that the really critical supports and services needed for people with really complex disabilities are starting to go away. You need to rise up. You need to be at the tables when these conversations are being had. You need to use your political vote. You need to use your advocacy voice. If you don't, there are people sitting at those tables, And when there's a discussion of limited resources and who's going to get what part, their voice may not be your voice. And if you let that happen, then your services could change and will change. You must rise up.